Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy! Okay, so on this week's edition of the Idiot Quilter, my special guest is Lauri. Is it Remin or Reman?
Remin. Remin,
Remin.
like lemon.
Oh, okay. Remin. All right, easy enough. So that's okay. Lauri, where are you from?
I live in Edmonton, Alberta, in
Okay.
Canada here.
Great. And I guess you guys have, I think you're cooled off a little bit now, but it's been pretty hot out there, hasn't it?
Yeah. I've lived in the same place for 29 years, and this is the first year I've ever had to buy a window air conditioner.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's been warm out here in Ontario as well, but I think you got more of it than we did. But, in about another month's time, we'll all be complaining about the cold.
Exactly.
Anyways, so let's get going with this. So how long have you been quilting and or sewing? Do you quilt and sew both, or do you just quilt?
Well, I started sewing. I created stuff when I was a little girl. And I was always into my mom sewing, and she had a 1957 Elna that she sewed on. My dad sewed as well. And so I just grew up creating. I was either in the garage with him or I was sewing with my mom. And my sewing started as undoing all of her things. So I
Okay,
learned in reverse, I guess.
okay, a little bit of child labor there then.
Yeah.
In a sense.
And then I never thought I would quilt. I as my kids were growing up and I sewed them clothes and things like that, I never thought I would quilt. And then I realized after they moved out and I started going through all the stuff in the basement, how much quilting stuff I actually had. And they moved out and a long arm happened to move in. So,
Aha. So
yeah.
the rest is history. So that was my next question, is how you got started, but I think you've already answered that for me. So, and I think you've already answered the next question. I was going to ask you, did anyone in your family influence you? And it sounds like it was your mother.
Well, it was both my mom and my dad. My dad's dad, so my grandfather was a blacksmith in Alberta here, and he could make anything. And all of his kids and my grandma knit and crocheted, rug took. She didn't sew, but my mom sewed. And so I got really a lot of learning of how to build stuff. My dad taught me, okay, I'm going to need this, get this. I'm going to need this, get that. I knew the difference between a pair of pliers and a screwdriver and a table saw and all that sort of stuff, because I was always out in the garage helping him. So really between my mom and my dad, yeah, and just the generational thing that you get passed down from one generation to another.
Right. So it sounds very much like you were inspired by your whole family. Your whole family were creators in one form or another. So probably just very natural for you to carry on with that kind of thing.
Yeah, my sisters don't even know which end of the needle to thread.
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
So
there
I
has
got
to
it.
be someone. There has to be someone in the family to carry on these traditions, you know?
Yeah.
So speaking of creations, what's your favorite creation, or do you have one?
Since I was able to get my laser cutter, my favorite thing to create are templates.
Okay, and so are you talking acrylic templates
Yep.
and with the laser cutter? So that's very interesting because I love machines. I have a couple of
Oh,
3D printers, and I have been looking at the laser cutters too. So yeah, so tell me, just what kind did you get? Because this is almost for me.
well, to make, I'll skip over a lot of detail, but we decided to go to church on a Sunday at Christmas time, and my son was having a baby with his girlfriend, and so we went to church, and this couple that we never sat with us, and I opened up the bulletin, and it said, if you want to go to the grandma's prayer group, talk to the lady who sat right beside me. So I said, Bonnie, I'm going to be a grandma, and I'm going to need all the prayer I can get. So where do I sign up? And so I went in January, and um, I told the ladies there that I wanted to make acrylic templates, but I needed somebody with a laser cutter to cut my designs for me. And so one lady that was there, of course, was the lady that I sat beside. Another lady I'd seen at church, but never really talked to. And another lady that I'd never even met. And she said, oh, my son-in-law in Sherwood Park, which is not far from Edmonton, has a laser cutter he's looking to cut things for.
Okay.
And then I went to retreat in March. I'd gone out and cut a couple things. And then when I went to a quilting retreat here in March, I was looking through my phone and I was saying to this lady who was sitting behind me, gee, you know, it would really be nice when I have my own laser cutter. And then I can cut 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, whenever I want. And as I was scrolling through my emails, this guy emailed me and said, well, you know, I think I should be spending more time with my family. And so I am not going to be doing this anymore. And I thought, oh, great. Now I'm on a hunt again, right?
Right.
And his next paragraph said, so do you want to buy my laser cutter? So by April, I had his laser cutter. So he had it imported from China. And it's fairly big. You have to have it at a shop and you have to have it ventilated and everything properly. But Stephen, I have no idea how I ever lived without a laser cutter. And then when I found out that I could laser cut fabric and layers of fabric, that's just a whole new world for me.
I was going to ask you about that, if you could cut fabric with it, because I heard that you can.
Well,
So,
white is hard because it's a laser, so it's burning.
right.
So it has a little bit of a burnt smell, but I just suggested people put the pieces in a laundry bag, like a mesh bag in your dryer, and put it with a dryer sheet, and that goes away. But white will show a discoloration. But it sears the edges, and so you don't have a lot of fraying on and it's in the seam allowance anyway.
Anyway, yeah, I was going to say, you'd be in the seam allowance, so you wouldn't notice that. So
no.
Oh,
And a darker color, don't see that. So I mean, I'm doing a hexagon quilt that's 3/4 of an inch hexes. And that was my first template, so I could cut more out. And I thought that was great because it was tracing all along through the lines. And wow, this is absolutely great because I wasn't going to trace around this 3/4 of an inch hexagon. And then when I realized I could laser cut the hexagon shape, I set that up on the computer and I went outside and I cut 527 out in less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I'm like, yeah, anything that's faster, easier, and better. And to use an acrylic template over and over and over. The hardest thing that I find is when people say, oh, it's so much money. But if it saves you time by hours, literally, I mean, if you're doing a quilt and you have 400 blocks and you get me to make you a template that's 4 inches because you need to trim that to 4 inches, and it saves you from 4 minutes of cutting down one out of 400 blocks to 2 minutes, you know, I charge per inch, and what you get is what the cost is. But templates are just, it's my whole life now. Anybody that talks to me, I'm like, that's all I talk about.
Well, actually, I'm going to move in here. I'm just going to switch the screen to your website because so people can see what we're talking about, and you can tell us maybe a little bit more. So you should see that up on your screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go down to your section where you have your templates, and that's right. Which section is that in?
Well, the Emmeline bags, I'm working with Janelle McKay from Emmeline Bags, and she has the Necessary Clutch wallet. And that is a huge popular pattern. People love that, making those little wallets. And they're just a great gift. They're awesome to make. And so I make the templates for people to make those. I'm the only one in Canada that makes them for her. And the gray or black ones are for the interfacing. So you can never get confused on which pieces to use.
What a good idea.
And I have, if you scroll down, Stephen, there's a couple of designs that I've made that other people that sell them in the States, you can only buy one kind. And so the piece D, you can buy half for directional fabric, or you can buy a lengthwise half, or you can buy the full piece. And then the bottom 2 pieces are trimming templates that I've made up that aren't available anywhere else. The one in the second one there on the bottom, with the lines on it, that one. That's so that you make the card slot for your credit cards to fit in, or your points cards.
Oh,
This one, the card slot, the one next to it on the right.
Oh, right here.
Yep. And so with that one, you lay it down on top of your prepared piece that's cut to size, you line it up, and you just draw those lines, and those are the fold lines and the sewing lines. So you know exactly which ones to sew and which ones to fold.
Whoa, that's great.
So it's a bigger piece. That's the one that sells the most.
Yeah.
It's kind of fragile, so I'm looking at trying to find acrylic that has just plastic on it so you can peel it off easier. But in my brain, it works to just put it down, draw straight lines, draw the lines down, and then fold it. Once you've made the pattern once, of course, and like anything, you know how to do it. And I don't want to make a ruler that's 2 inches by 15 inches that you got to line up on one side, turn around and line up on the other, and then draw your lines across. Just plunk this thing down, draw your lines across, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I have made some of these before, and geez, now that I see them, I didn't really understand these at first until you've explained them to me, but what a great idea. And if you make a lot of these, yeah, it's well worth the investment, I think, with that. And then, yep.
That's the hardest thing I find is like her retreat bag. I'm the only one that makes a retreat bag template for the retreat bags. And that's a 4-piece set. And you can cut out all your pieces in less than 10 minutes to make your retreat bag.
Geez, that's a real time saver. And that's one I actually have the pattern for as well, from Emmeline Bags. And so, okay, well, I'm going to do some shopping.
Stephen, that's a free downloadable pattern.
Yes, I know it is. And your link is right up here where it says here. And I already have that one because I had downloaded it previously, but I haven't made it yet. But now I'm thinking, yeah, I need these. So, okay, a lot of shopping going on here. And the other thing that I've noticed too is that you are making quilting rulers for long arm and domestic machines.
That was the first ruler that I remember calling my dad and saying, Dad, how can I cut this so that I can make these? And there are a lot of people who do make long arm rulers. Yeah. But I found that the ones that were only the span of my hand didn't go on a point to point piece.
Right.
And I wanted something, I'm not very good at freehanding, so I needed something I could hold down, put my hopping foot in, and just pull it down straight from one corner to the other. And with those rulers you can. I don't make a lot of them. There are a lot of other good Canadian companies that do, but I just found the long arm ones were the ones that I wanted.
Yeah, but your designs though are somewhat unique. I don't have a long arm machine. I'd love to have one at some point, but I haven't seen rulers that quite look like this, like with the opening.
Yeah, I made the opening because I'm so terrible at doing freehand. And the one on the left, the Celine ruler, my friend Celine, I took them over and I said, look at this. And she went, wow. And she said, I'm doing a Storm at Sea quilt and I want a curve. And so she gave me 2 rows of her fabric, came home, and I put clear plastic down and I started using markers and just drew the curve that she wanted and made it into this ruler. And she put it in the Edmonton Guild Quilt Show a couple of years ago, and in 2018, I think. And she won a prize from one of the categories. So I don't pay anybody a royalty for if they give me an idea, but I can name a ruler after them.
Well, that's a one step to immortality right there. Well, yeah, I've been looking through. You've got a lot of really great stuff on your website, and I will post the link to this when this goes up as well, so people can check it out. But yeah, I think it's fascinating that you have all of that. So that takes me then to my next question then, and that is, what type of quilter would you describe yourself? Are you traditional? Are you modern? Do you do it all?
I do it all, but I'm in the process of making a template set that can be used for pre-cuts.
Oh,
for 2-inch squares where
yeah.
you can use the whole, the whole, I don't know who this person is. Sorry, just get him off there. Where you can use the whole 10-inch square, like the square, and then you cut it down.
Right.
And a friend of mine came over a couple of weeks ago, and we cut out the pieces for a king size quilt using the template in an hour and a half.
Wow. Well, that's
So
great.
I'm hoping to do another interview when I get my pattern done and show you how to do that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let me know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And just a couple of other things that I wanted to show you that aren't on the website yet
Yep.
is I have people that tell me, or so I don't like making box corners, but the traditional way of making a box corner is to take your fabric, your square, and then line it up like this,
Right.
draw with a pen or a pencil, and cut it out with scissors.
Yep.
Well, I don't like that. So I made these 2 items, and they're called a corner cutter junior and a corner cutter senior. And they're 1, 1.5, 2, and 2.5. So what you do is if you want a 2.5-inch one, you just lay it on your fabric this way.
Mm.
And you take your rotary cutter, 45 millimeter, and you cut into there and cut down. And because it's got, maybe this side is a little better to see, these little cut-ins, the rotary cutter cuts right into the corner and you're done.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
Those are my own designs that I've made up myself. And then I had a lady email me and ask me if I would make a zipper template. So all the people that make bags, sorry, my crude demo here. Yep. This is a ruler that I made, same concept. I've had a couple people ask me this, and it has the same cut-ins on the sides, so that when you're cutting your bag for your zipper, you put that on there and you cut it with your rotary cutter and your piece comes right out. Here it is.
Oh, that's brilliant. And these aren't on your website yet, though. So
not yet. I just cut them last week. So this is the one where, I don't know if you can see that very well, Stephen, where you have the line in the picture with the arrows. So this is the template for this one.
Yep.
And then, of course, just because I'm so thrifty with my own money, I made one that you can use for both. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
So you would use this on the one side and then turn it over, line it up, and then cut it again on the other side.
That's great. Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing those up on your website soon because I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I love that corner. Oh, that's cute.
This is just some little wine ones. And I do have some of these kits that I did make. And they're all rolled up here because I wasn't going to spend money on a Ziploc bag that people just put away somewhere. And so you have everything in here to make. I even made the little belt buckle.
That's cute.
And then there's, you can use a Valentine's Day, any type of thing, and that's on the website. Another thing that I make for people who have dogs, or my dog's model these, the 5 sizes in dog bandanas. And I just went to the dollar store and bought a little kitty collar and put it in there. Really fast and easy. I try and make multiple sizes on one template as much as I can.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I am sure when they see this interview, you're going to get a lot of people flocking to your website for these products because they're wonderful. And I especially love that one that cuts the corners out of the bags. That is something I definitely want to get my hands on.
Yeah. And somebody, of course, when I did the show here in Edmonton with the Edmonton District Quilters Guild, somebody says, can you make one that makes it bigger?
Yeah.
So it's the next size up from this one. But these are my own designs. You won't find them anywhere on the internet, anywhere,
You know, it's so nice that you're Canadian and this is a Canadian business and the whole bit. And I'm all about promoting Canadian businesses in the quilting industry. And that's one reason why I'm doing these interviews as well. So people, the word gets out there that these are available because we're so American centric, it seems. And people forget that in our own country, we have people like you who are creating innovative products. And I just think this is so great. So I'm just dying to finish this interview and get over to your website to order some things, but we're going to carry on with the interview right now. So,
thank you so much, Stephen. I mean, I have people that contact me and say, "Hey, you know, can you, I'm doing I'm a quilt tester and I need a 4x6 template. Can you cut me one?" That's easy enough to do.
yeah.
Geometric stuff is easy enough to do. I'm hoping to start making my own patterns where I can sell the laser cut fabric. I'll just show you quickly this other template that I made. She said there's two types of quilters, one that can sew on the line and one that can't sew on the line. And so this is a half square ruler to make half square triangles so that when you know, there's other products that you lay from end to end, draw your line, turn it around, lay end to end. Forget that. For me, I want to do it faster, easier, and better. And so this goes on your fabric where you line it up for your blocks and you draw all your lines. There's always a center line that I have as a reference.
Right.
And I'm a sew on the liner. I'm not a 1/4 inch sewer from the liner. I'm a liner sewer. So I've got both of these on the website, both kinds. So you have to be specific on what you want. Also, if anybody orders a long arm ruler, I have found out that in APQS, some types of APQS machines, their hopping foot is 0.5 or 0.531. And Handy Quilter is 0.50.
Oh, okay.
So you'll get to a certain point and you won't be able to go farther if your foot is larger. So if you find out the dimension of your foot and you order one of the long arm rulers, it will, I can make either one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's custom. Okay. So that's just so, I didn't expect any of this when I was interviewing you before. And I'm fascinated by the whole thing. And now you're making me want to get a laser cutter too, but then I'd have to have a place to put it and I have to vent it. But, oh, well, never say never. I never thought I'd have a 3D printer either. Now I've got 2 of those. So here we go.
I need some 3D printed stuff so we can do for each other.
The only thing is I don't know how to design in them. I use all ones I find online. I want to learn more about AutoCAD's programs that work with that. But anyways, this is about you. This is not about me. So let's move on here to, so can you describe your crafting area, your work area? Are you in your work area right now?
My work, when the kids moved out, I live in a part of Edmonton that was developed in the 70s for a mobile homes.
Oh, okay.
But it's the only part in Edmonton, but you pay your taxes like like a regular house would be. But I have a basement.
Oh, okay.
So I'm one of the ones that has a basement. I had 3 kids when they grew up here. And so the long arm is great for a long basement like that. That's great. I have my sewing area down there. I have a spare bedroom down there. I have a bedroom up here that I do my drafting in and all my cutting with my ironing. I have it on the kitchen table. I have it in the living room. I have it all downstairs.
So basically your work area is your entire house.
is the bed. I don't have anything in the bedroom and in the bathroom. But I have my husband is like, oh, he can't stand clutter, but he just has to look. My niece came over and said, that's the sign of somebody very creative.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I know all about that. So you mentioned that drafting. Do you have a background in drafting?
Years ago, I took an AutoCAD course for something I was doing, and I never got rid of that computer. And when my husband and I got married, he said, why don't you get rid of that? Why do you get rid of that? And I said, no, like I'm not. It has AutoCAD on it. And when I tiled the floor, I used it to calculate how many tiles I needed. When I do anything, anything outside. I calculate how many boards we need and things like that. So I never got rid of it. And then I just use the basic, like the program that I got from 2014, AutoCAD 2014, and that's basically
Right.
what I use. And then of course I have to convert everything into the laser program so that the laser can read it, but
Right.
that's fairly easy to do.
Well, you could probably design things then for 3D printing because you know how to see. I don't know how to use that. So yet. And to be honest, I haven't dedicated a lot of time to that, although as time goes on, I probably will as well. It eats into my quilting time. That's why I haven't done it. But yeah, well, that's great. So here's a question for you. What's your favorite tool or technique? And I think I know what your favorite tool is right now. I would say it's probably your laser cutter, right?
And I love handwork. And so the design that I've made with the template, you can use for, you can sew the top together, or you can quilt as you go.
Okay.
And so, and English paper piecing, any type, I just love it. I had a lady ask me one time that I used to work with, so what do you do for fun when you're not quilting? I looked at her and I said, so if you could spend 99% of your time with your horses, would you have a problem with that? And she said, oh, absolutely not. And I said, well, that's the same for quilting for me. I just do it. I take it with me. I take it to the store. I do it in the car. I'm constantly thinking about quilting and what I can do and how I can make something better.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yours, it keeps your mind going, and I'm really a great believer in challenging yourself and your mind. I think that keeps us alive, especially as we grow older. You got to keep your muscle memory or your mind memory and all that intact with that, or what's the consequences from that, if you don't. So if you had all the money in the world, is there a piece of equipment you'd like to invest in?
Oh, I would buy a UV color printer so I can color print on acrylic templates.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I need to get a GoFundMe page, I think, because the only one I found that's like a desktop one is $45,000 US. I'd have to sell an awful lot of these templates, man, to do that, right? So I just have to find somebody in Edmonton that I can do that with. And anybody that knows somebody, please pass that information on, because I would prefer to have a little bit of color on some of the templates that I'm doing.
Yeah, that would be nice. But yeah, a little pricey though, aren't they? But
or 225,000 for one that wouldn't even fit in my kitchen, right?
Yeah, right. You may be moving into the bathroom with some of your other stuff to make room for something like that. So, have you ever belonged to any kind of online or physical, like guilds or groups?
Well, I have belonged to in the past the Edmonton District Quilters Guild. And they have a lot of talented people in that guild. Well, a lot of people, everybody's talented in a guild. The creativity is always spectacular. And I have belonged to the Sherwood Park Guild and the Edmonton Modern Quilt Guild.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at the quilt that's behind you, and I have a couple of questions about that. So one, I would consider that a modern quilt, of course. And are the fabric pieces in that, are those all laser cut?
That was before my laser cutter.
Oh, okay. You did the hard way.
My dad, I love this Hoffman pattern with the dance of the dragonfly.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it the same way.
Right.
And so when my dad was sick, I got my kids to pick the fabric they wanted. It didn't matter to me if it went or not. It was the fabric they wanted,
right,
as adults now. And so I made the dragonflies for each one of my kids.
Okay.
And then I put it on and I made it so it went down underneath off the fabric.
I see that. That's
And
cool.
so it was just special for my dad that it was his grandkids. And then when he passed away, then his girlfriend gave it back to me. So
Yeah. It's a beautiful quilt. I really love it on there, and the quilting on it too. Now, did you do the quilting yourself? Well, you've got a long arm,
yeah,
so I'm assuming you did. Yep.
yeah.
It's a gorgeous quilt. I keep staring at it, going,
Oh,
ooh.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's when you do shop for other things like your fabric and things like that, do you have favorite stores in your area or something that you like to go to?
Oh, well, Alberta is the province in Canada that has the most quilt shops.
Yes, I've noticed that.
And of course, my husband is well trained now that if we're going anywhere, he knows he has to look for the quilt shops on the way there or on the way back. And I mean, we have Lauri's Country Cottage, we have Johnson's Quilter's Dream. There's Quincy's Quilting out in Leduc. There's a few smaller shops, and everybody has their own way they have it set up, as you know, when you go to different shops.
Yeah.
And I really like going to each one of them. I know like Quilt Essentials in St. Albert here, she's got this, she's got that. Vegreville, there's lots of small places. The Chicken Coop and Mundare they're all just great shops.
Yeah.
All of them are great. I can't say I have one favorite over another, but I do know that if I'm looking for something specific, I know which place to go. I mean, one is like 5 minutes away from me, and I often call them and say, "Are you still open? Okay, I'll be right over. It'll take me 10 minutes if there's no traffic," right?
Yeah.
And I really like getting to know the shop owners and the employees, because then you really know, you feel connected with more people.
Yes.
And Stephen, I don't know if you know this, and I'm just going to share this because I do with everybody. Quilting and scrapbooking are a joy building activity.
Yes.
And if you can increase somebody's joy capacity, you enable them to handle stress better.
Yes. I agree with that completely.
And when you and we gift quilts to people, it makes them happy, it gives them comfort, love, joy, all of those things. But this is a brain science thing, when you look left eye to somebody's left eye and you're happy and you're joyful, that transmits between your brain and my brain 6 times per second.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I chose that years ago. I wanted to be a life-giving person, and then I didn't want to be a draggy person, and I want to increase somebody's joy capacity every time I see them. And so when you and then you purposely go around, you don't go like this all the time, but if you just do that and get into a habit of looking left eye to left eye. Now, women and men get a hormone built up with being with each other, but women building, making something, creating something, get a hormone that they build up, and men do the same thing. But women create together. So if they're cooking or they're doing a quilting bee, and then they get that hormone, because the men will say, oh, I've been out with my buddies for how long? And the women will say, I haven't been out with my friends shopping or doing anything. So when it's a natural hormone that we need to have built up. And if you understand that, then you allow your significant other to go and do that. And it increases their ability to come back then and be at home. Women need to create, men need to drink and urinate. And it doesn't matter what they drink, but if you notice, when you go to a household of people, the men often after the dinner or whatever will go to a section, and the women will go to a section, and they all get their hormones built up, and then they're happier and they come home. And so that's just a physical thing. So left eye to left eye is a joy building. We want to build somebody's joy up if we find they're stressed. We want to give them a hug. We want to increase their joy capacity. And that's just 2 ways. Hugging somebody and looking at them and increasing that is something that will help them deal with their stress.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, you mentioned scrapbooking, because that's what I was for many, many years. I was a scrapbooker, and I have heard of a lot of people who get into quilting that many times they started their crafting career in the paper arts with scrapbooking or mixed media. And then that's what I did. And then it's translated over into those skills, what I call transferable skills, transfer over into quilt making as well. And I suppose it would do it vice versa as well. With it. But I do agree with the whole idea of the creative spirit that you're talking about. I think it does bring joy. It allows for you to escape. When I'm working on a quilt, I'm not thinking about any of the other things that are going on in my life at that moment in time. And when I get together with other people, because I run a craft and chat once a month as well on Zoom, and I just come out of that feeling so much better. And it's just because I've been working with other people. And that's why I love taking classes and things like that too. It's been hard during COVID that we haven't been able to do those, but Zoom has been a substitute to a certain degree for that. But yeah, that left eye business, I'm going to pay attention to that in the future now, because I've never heard that before, but that's very interesting. So do you have any favorite sources of information or people like gurus supposedly that you might, go to every now and then for inspiration or tips, tricks, techniques?
I do. I come up with a lot of tips myself, and I've been posting those on Instagram. And I may be one of the few people, Stephen, that I sent it 2 tips into, probably shouldn't say I sent it in for my friend as well, to Fons and Porter.
Oh, yes.
And she got a letter saying, hey, you want a subscription? And she phoned me and said, do you know anything about this? And I said, yeah, I sent a tip in under your name and I sent a tip in under mine. I was kind of like, okay, well, at least they picked one. And so she said, well, what was the tip? And I said, oh, no, you got to wait for that. You got to watch them. So she did. And her tip was, we all have these rulers. They're all the same.
Yeah.
Can't get away from that, right? And so what I suggested is to put nail polish on a non-cut edge, smooth it off, wipe it off, and then at a quick glance, you can tell yours from someone else's if you're at a class or a sew day. And then to also just put the same color on your tools.
Good idea.
And so I bet you're just itching now to find out what my tip was, because
yes.
Sorry, one of the ladies, I think it is Vanessa, that emailed me and said, I just love your tip and I'm going to use it this weekend. It's not just a quilting tip, it's just a great, awesome tip. And so when I have my sewing machine set up downstairs, I have a power bar and I plug in my left light and my sewing machine and my right light. And then I turn everything on and I use this toggle switch to shut everything off and to turn it all on. Then you only have one plug to plug it in. But the problem is, how do you hang these bars?
Yeah.
Because of those screws holes on the back.
Yes.
You take your ruler, you try and line it up. It's not straight.
Yep.
So here's my tip. Are you ready?
Yep.
So you put packing tape, painter's tape on the back. You either take a pen or a pencil and you mark the center of each one of your holes.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
And you stick it on the wall or your desk or wherever you're going to attach this to, and you will line up your screw holes perfectly every time.
That is brilliant, because I have power bars all over the place and I always fight with trying to get those holes lined up in the whole bit. Where were you when I was doing all of that?
I know. And so that was my tip that I got from Fons and Porter.
Well, that's great. You're just a wealth of ideas. I'm telling you. You're the.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I did the creative or the CQA virtual show.
Oh, okay.
And I found that the most attended, I did the same things for an hour, every day. But the one that compiled that I got the most viewers was the tips, my tips.
Yeah, well, your tips are brilliant. And the brilliant part about your tips is they are so simple. Why didn't I or somebody else think of that as well? You know, but that's often the way. So yeah, so I'm learning so much today. Geez, I didn't expect this, but that's okay. Yep.
I have that one tip section on my website.
Okay. So
that I put in there. So you can go in there and read a whole bunch of them, stuff like that. I keep finding out more things. Oh, I got to take a picture of this. This is a great tip. Oh, I got to take a picture of this. This is a great tip. Oh, okay. So I finally hired a social media gal, and she's doing my Instagram and my Facebook. So we are posting one tip a week, and just different templates, different things that we're coming up with. I just email them to her, and she does all that. I say to people, I'm down to the point. I'm straightforward. I'm not interested in fluff and, oh, your nails are so nice. I'm just not that kind of person. So I just want to get to the nitty gritty. And so she's going to be helping me be a nicer person on Instagram.
So what's your Facebook? What do you need to go to get onto your Facebook site?
Facebook is So Clever for You, I think, or soclever.ca. And that's my website. You know,
that's your website. Yeah.
I'm not best friends with Facebook. Sorry, I'm just not. I think it's So Clever for You. And then Instagram, I think, is So Clever for You.
Okay.
I mean, they make you have a personal one, and then they make you have a business one. So.
Yeah. So is it So Clever for You as in all spelled out in words, or is it a number?
Number. So Clever, SEWCLEVER, number 4 You.
As in,
and I came up with So Clever because so many people would say, that's so clever.
Yeah. Yes, and I get it. I get it. So I'll have to check that out, but I'll put that also into the show notes for this interview as well, because I'm sure there's lots of people that would be interested in that as well. So that brings me to the future. What you have, what any challenges or goals do you have for yourself for the future?
Just, I'm not doing as much custom work anymore. I'm trying to get away from that, but I am looking at, for the future, I'm doing the pre-cut template with the patterns. That's going to be new for me for writing a pattern and figuring out yardage and all the rest of that. And I've got about 6 designs, each one for a different pattern that the templates will build one on the other. So you don't have to do the 5th pattern if you don't want to, and if you're happy to do the other one. It's very different. But you use the whole 10-inch pre-cut, and the same thing you can do for a 10-inch, you're going to be able to do for a 5-inch. You're going to be able to scale down to do a jelly roll 2.5-inch strip.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. Yes, it sounds to me like you've got a lot of really good business ideas on your plate right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing, I'll be checking your website on a regular basis to, as I said, I've already got a shopping list here in my mind of things that I want. So, so now I'm going to branch out a little bit. We're getting closer to the end of the interview, but you are obviously not only a creative person and a person who has a lot of technical knowledge as well, but you are an artist. So how would you describe yourself as an artist? And what I mean by that is when you approach a new idea, because there is art in, even if it's a technical thing, like one of your tips now, how would you characterize yourself as an artist? Are you innovative? Are you somebody who builds on a foundation of other ideas and always want to improve on those ideas? I mean, it's kind of an unfair question because it's, you know, can we really label anybody as an artist in, you know, these ways? But I'm making you think.
I've had people tell me that I am somebody that thinks outside the box.
I would agree with that. From what I've learned from you from this interview, I would say that too.
My husband, a lot of times menopause just doesn't let you sleep through the night. And I'll wake up and I will start thinking about something that I have to work on or that I want to change or that I want to do. And sometimes it takes me a couple of weeks or longer to get something because I want to make sure that I don't have to change it again.
Yeah.
Some of the templates that are on the website, I want to change and then repost the pictures because I didn't like the way it worked.
Right.
But I think outside the box. I don't just look at it and go, okay, this is this, but I'm like, do this. And what happens if you do this? And how can it work like this? Because if I'm going to spend 40, 50, $60 on a template, it's going to have to do more than one thing for me if I can help it that way. So the Quilt As You Go pattern has 3 different sizes. And so I'm trying to make that just in one template. So a person just has to buy one, but can get multi-uses, multi-sizes, things like that, because money's been tight.
Yeah.
And I feel that I'm sympathetic to people, but I still have to make a living at doing the templates. And some of the things I do aren't made anywhere else.
Yeah.
You can't get them in the States. You can't get them anywhere. And I'm really thankful for my friends that have said, can you make me this? And then let me put it on the website.
Right.
So,
well, I have a label for you then as an artist. I'm going to call you a speculative innovator.
I'm sorry, repeat that. You froze up there for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Steve.
You are a speculative innovator.
Okay, I'll go with that.
It sounds good anyway, so yeah, go for it. So I have one last question for you, and my last question is for anybody who is getting into quilting or sewing or this kind of thing, what is a piece of advice you'd give them if they're just getting started in this?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Go to people. Quilters are so creative, so helpful, so willing to help people. If you join a guild or you find a guild or keep going to different guilds in your area till you feel comfortable, there's lots of bee groups. Google everything, right? And don't be afraid to try it, and don't be afraid to not have your points straight. Done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Your eye sees it differently hanging up on the wall than it does laying on a bed, and you're never going to see that those points don't line up perfectly laying on a bed. They're just not. Done is better than perfect. And so just do the best, learn from others, ask a lot of questions. No question is too stupid. I had somebody, we were talking and she said, well, this starch says I'm supposed to use a dry iron. Where do you get a dry iron from? I said, you don't put water in it. And she's like, oh, duh, right? And another story about speaking about an iron, Stephen, I know Fawns and Porter had this on years ago, that when an iron, people started with the iron that you put on the stove, heat it up, then you put the wood chips in, then you had the handle, then you did all that. But when power came on, it didn't come on during the day. It only came on at night. And so the man who created the electric iron convinced the power company to have the power on Tuesday. So that's why women washed on Monday, and then they ironed on Tuesday and did their mending Wednesday, because Tuesday was the only day. And I hope I've got the story straight. And Fawns and Porter back their issues, whatever, would be able to confirm that, or somebody can Google it. But that was the only day that the power company would have the electricity on, so women could iron during the day.
I have never, ever heard that. And whether it is absolutely true or not doesn't matter. It's a great story. So I love that. So before we say goodbye, do you have any last words or anything? Last words sounds like something else. What I mean is, do you have anything else you would like we should know about you, or whatever that you'd like to finish off with?
Just, I'm here to help Canadians. I wanted to start a Canadian company to help Canadians. The United States, they've got wonderful quilt shops. They've got wonderful templates. I don't copyright somebody else's templates. People ask me, oh, can you make me this? And I'm like, I'll Google it and say, you can buy this from the designer. Her templates are in the States. Sorry, I'm not recreating something. I'm not taking the money from another designer. What comes around goes around, and I only sell the things that I have designed, or I have permission from the designer to do that. Now, in a pattern, if it says make a template, draw a template, if you hire me to cut that out for you, or it's from a magazine, then that's okay. We're not infringing on anybody's copyright, but I'm very careful about that. And so don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to see what you can do to put things together. I mean, 3 years ago, I was a legal assistant.
Now look at you.
Now,
Yeah. Well, I think that's
24/7. So I just, you know, and life is too short.
Yep.
Once you get to be a certain age and your life is shorter, you think differently. And you know, I got to get rid of all the fabric that I've stacked up in the basement. And so I'm just going to laser cut it and sell it as a kit if I can, you know,
a
and
great idea.
Anything that can make somebody's life faster, easier, and better to get the job done. I'm an impatient quilter, and so I want to get it done. So now that I have a laser cutter, I mean, I was working on one pattern, and I thought I put it on the long arm, and I thought, I'm not using a regular ruler for this. I got to make my own. So I came upstairs, made a little ruler for it that can be used on the domestic, and went to the shop, cut it, brought it in, and finished my quilt. So I'm not, you know, I will help anybody that is stuck on something, that needs something. I can't pay them any royalties, but if it goes on the website and things like that, I just have always wanted to make things faster, easier, and better, because life gets shorter. And I don't know about you, Stephen, but it seems like a year goes by in no time.
Oh, yes, I know. That's very true. Well, I have to say that I have really enjoyed this interview. I think you're absolutely brilliant, and I'm looking so forward to seeing what you're coming up with in the future. So let's stay in touch with that. And I'll put all the links for your Facebook and for your website into the show notes for this as well, so other people can get in there and check it all out, because it's well worth the adventure. And I want to thank you so much today for doing this interview with me. And just stay on the line here for a minute as I turn off the recording. But just once again, thank you so much. This has just been fascinating. So,
thank you, Stephen. I just really appreciate. I started watching your podcasts and your things because I've never heard of you before. The other lady recommended, and I thought, I gotta, you know, take some time and see what you guys are doing. And I just I look forward to the time that I can listen and watch and see what you have to say. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to sign off right